Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start a demo session on Documentum Training. Before going to start in detail with the Documentum, I would like to tell about myself. I have more than 5+ years of experience in Documentum as well as in IT industry. My area of expertise in the Documentum content server version are the 6.8, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 16.4, 16.7, and currently I'm working on 21.4. Same way, the application server are the EasyWeb, TaskBase, WebTop, 6.8, 6.4, 16.7, and D2. Through the 5 years of experience, I have majorly worked in the content server installation, upgrade and migration on both Windows and Linux platform. Apart from that, I have customized the web top application, and currently I am working on the REST and the SOAP services which connect to the Documentum. So through the Documentum session, through the whole time period, I will cover all these below topic. In the ECM overview, I will explain everything about the ECM, the birth of ECM, how it's get, how the idea is comes in the pictures, and how they created the Documentum platform. Then the operation of content. In that, I will explain all the pillars of the Documentum through which it make the successful tool. Then I will go with the architecture of Documentum. In that, I will explain everything by layer wise. And then the Documentum object type. In that, I will explain the hierarchy of the objects, how they are integrated with each others. Then users and privilege, how the users are added in the Documentum, and what are the privileges are there, and how the privileges are affected with the users. Then groups and role. The groups and roles comes in the picture when we need to provide the permissions to the user by application level or by the group based on the object types. So that can be done by the groups and roles. So there is very thin difference in between that. So I will explain everything about this. Then the object security, how to make sure that our recorded content is secure, and who can visible that everything I will explain in object security. Then the searching is the it's the difficult part in the Documentum, because as we know, the Documentum is a unstructured data. So it's really very difficult to do the searching on unstructured data. So that I will explain how it's going to be happen, and what are the different tools integrated with the searching, and how they are configured to the DA. Then the Documentum project, I will cover my Documentum the projects which I have worked, and how they are behave. That I will explain everything, so that in the industry you will not suffer anything. Then the custom object type. In the custom, how whenever you are going to create anything new in the Documentum, you have to create custom object type. So based on that, your content will be the survive in Documentum. And to make the custom object type referable, we have to do the business object framework. So that also I will going to explain. Then the workflow and life cycle. um, uh, this is also one of the important topic in the Documentum. So I will cover everything about that. Then the alias virtual document dictionary and taxonomy. Dictionary and taxonomy is majorly used in D2, not in the EasyWeb, TaskSpace, or WebTop. So how we can make it uh, so the dictionary and taxonomy make it easier to do the development and to make the customer feel easy. So today I'm going to cover the Documentum architecture. So the Documentum architecture is split into the four part. One is the foundation layer, then the repository layer, which is nothing but the application services, then the application layer, which is nothing but the experience layer, which is the end layer of the tool, and then the development layer. Then in that we are going to cover how what are the different tool through which we can do the customization in the Documentum. So I will go with the bottom up approach. So on the bottom, as I said, it's a foundation layer. In that, we have to fix the foundation of the Documentum. So in that, we have to create the infrastructure of the repository. So as we all know, the repository is a part of content server. So to that, we have to install the content server. Then we have to configure the database in our system. Then the full text index search, through which user are able to search the context that we have to install. Then the storage, we have to map the storage with our Documentum repository. And then the directory services. Directory services is nothing but the location on which the Documentum will be the place. So that we have to make sure while doing the repository infrastructure setup, which is as nothing but the prerequisite before going to install the content server. Then the repository security services is placed in the foundation layer, which is nothing but the authentication and auditing. In authentication, there are the four ways through which user will able to log in into the system. That is nothing. The first one is the OS. Through the OS, there will be one data type, and through which user will directly log into the system. Then the inline, we have to provide the password to the user, and then user will able to log in. Then LDAP is nothing but the Active Directory group is there, which is centralized into the organization, and through which user are able to log in into the Documentum platform. And then the last one is nothing but the SSO. So SSO is the nothing but the single sign-on. So just one click, the system. The Documentum cache the user password, and based on that, it will automatically log into the machine. And the auditing is nothing is really helpful when we have to monitor our system. So for that perspective, the auditing is required. Then the layer will be the repository layer. So the in the repository layer, it's placed into the different part, that is the compliance services. In the compliance services, the repository level provide the retention policy is nothing but the uh, make sure that the repository, that the document will be just placed into the system for how much period. So based on the business requirement, we have to define the period, and through the life cycle, that the over the period, that document will automatically delete, so that it will save the space in that perspective. Then the record manager, so the how the record is going to manage, and how it will be the invoke through the life cycle or the workflow. So that going to be managed through here. Then the content services is nothing but the it provide the different services over the content. Like the rendition services, rendition will make sure that the document will be the available for multiple format, like the PDF, PDF, Excel, JPG format. Suppose I have inserted a document in the Excel format, and one of my team member want that document in PDF. So the as per the business requirement, it will automatically convert that document into the PDF, and then it's placed into the that content storage. Then the workflow and life cycle. The workflow in the workflow, mm, the movement of content from one person to another person, that happen in that, it's like the delegate. We can just pass that document and ask him or her to validate that document, and based on that, we don't have to send any email or nothing. It will automatically happen with the workflow. And the life cycle is nothing but the movement of document through the stages, so that the approval, rejection, these are the stages in the life cycle. Then the process services is nothing but the collaboration services. In that, the based on the demand, we can integrate different platform into our system. So that going to be happen through the process. Just like we can say the third party tool, like the Google. Suppose I want Google search in my Documentum, so I can integrate with that. Then the experience layer is nothing but the client layer, or the end user. So through the customization, we can achieve the end user interface based on the business requirement. Like suppose client want their company logo over the login screen. So that can be achieved by the WDK framework. And the one important part is the UCF. UCF is the Unified Content Fidelity. So based on the UCF, whatever the content movement, that is a download or open, or sending from one person to another person, that everything is going to be done by the UCF, which is the Java based application, which is automatically installed when we install the Documentum. Then the development layer is also nothing but the tools through which we can make the customization on the Documentum backend side. So the ways are the DFC, DFS, BOF, that everything will explain in detail with other chapters. So this is everything about the Documentum architecture. Now I'm going to cover about the course outline. So in Mind Magic Documentum training provide the aspirant with the knowledge and the skill needed to be successful. You will be introduced to the Documentum architecture, content management functionalities, underlying technical structure, and application configuration. You will gain the proficiency in the core essential of Documentum and become career ready upon the completion. Stay up to date with the latest tools and techniques of the Documentum by mastering with this certification course. Apart from the topics, I will going to cover the few topics which you will get to know with the experience. So I will going to show how DL looks, how WebTop looks, and how D2 looks, and what are the differences with these front end applications, and how they are integrated with the Documentum. Then the WDK architecture. Whenever you user anyone or the client wants the customization on the WebTop, they should know the WDK architecture, how it's going to be work. Work whenever the any customization is placed with the webtop structure. So that everything I'm going to cover with the WDK architecture and add-on services and the SSO. So add-on services are the one of the key component in the Documentum through which we can make our application more secure and provide the different services like the retention policy, make the our application available in different languages like the French, Italian, in that way. And the SSO, the single sign-on functionality that we have to configure by externally. So there are also the two ways to implement the SSO. That everything I am going to cover. Also, I will going to show how it's going to be happen in my project. Then the DFC and DFS. I will create a session creation code, and I will through the code I will go through how the communication will be the happen with the Documentum repository and our custom code. That everything I am going to cover in this topic. Then the with the course you will get the Documentum content server, WebTop, and D2 latest version guide. With in that everything will be there are around 7 to 8 guides will be there. That is the installation configuration guide, administration guide, then the user guide. So everything will be there with the latest version and the course PDF. In the PDF, the theoretical parts and the MCQ questions will be there. In my whole experience I have worked with the two projects. So one is the Dow Chemical. So as we know, the Dow is a chemical company and it's the leading company in the America. So the Dow Chemical uses Documentum for their enterprise content management functionality. So managing the technical specifications, procedure manual of manufacturing equipment, maintenance, etc. related documents are stored into the Documentum. Managing the business process documents like the best practices, standard guideline, which can be shared globally for the DAO operationally experience. Then the Mandiva uses Documentum application for the stored document for the use, stock, and sale vehicle by integrating with the SAP. So here the SAP they have integrated with the Documentum. So by using the REST and SOAP services, the communication will be the happen with the SAP and the Documentum. So that also I will going to explain as a add-on services. In that everything will be there. In the lab setup, we have the high speed internet, desktop, as well as the laptop. Mm, with the following the system with the following system as the Microsoft Windows 7 and above, 500 GB hard disks, memory will be the 16 GB, CPU will be the 5 core. Also, with this course, we will provide the mock interviews. Mind Magics offers the advanced Documentum interview questions and the answer along with the Documentum sample resume. Take a free sample practice before appearing the certification to improve your chances of scoring high. These are the frequently asked questions in the Documentum, like what is the Documentum, what is the content server, what is the doc base, what will be the doc broker, and so on. Through this course you will get the certification. You can apply for the certification on OpenText site for the Documentum administration, Documentum business administration, Documentum D2 business analytics. So once you're done with the certification, you will be in demand in the IT industry, and you can be placed in any of the leading IT companies. So today I'm going to cover the ECM overview. So ECM is nothing but the enterprise content management. So when we think about the content it's nothing but the unstructured data. So as we all know, there are the many tools like the SQL, MySQL for the structured data. So structure will be stored in the into the database as a key value, but for unstructured is kind of anything like the text document, word document, or Excel document, audio, video. So we can't say it's unstructured anything. So to store the unstructured data, we have to store with the metadata. Metadata is nothing but the information about the data. So suppose I have put one Excel file. So the more information about the Excel, who created this Excel, when created it the Excel, when it's modified, so everything this information will be stored into the database, and the content will be stored into the storage directory of the Documentum. So this is how the content and metadata will be the related with the Documentum. So this is the basic fundamental, the basic funda of the creation of Documentum tool. So when we install the Documentum, the first point will comes in a picture is the repository. So repository is used to manage the both content and its metadata, which is stored into the file system and the database. So the repository is stored into the Documentum, and the content and metadata which will be the stored into the repository. Then the content server contain the application. Content server bring the storage content metadata to the live and manages. Content server manages the multiple repository, if there are and if there are one or more repository, then it will be one will be the global repository. So the uses of global repository. So whenever we customize the code and which is applied for all the repository, so through the global repository we can install all over it. We don't have to copy the code for every repository. So the code reusability happens to the content server as a global repository. So there are the five pillars for the for the Documentum. So one is the management services. Content management services primarily deal with the storage, retrieval, versioning, data dictionary, assembly, publishing, and the search functionality. Content server uses an object oriented model, store the everything as an object in the repository. It provides APIs for managing the content and the metadata together. Data dictionary store the information about the object type in the repository. The data dictionary can be altered by addition of the user defined object type and the properties. Virtual document is nothing but the linking of multiple contents in a single file. So into a large document. Content server also provide the indexing and the search capability, which included the ability to search within the content, and the third party search provide the to the installation. Then the process management services is the second pillar. Process management features included the workflow and lifecycle. Workflow typically represent the business process and the model, event oriented applications. And the lifecycle define the business rule that can be applied to the different type of the document. Then the security services. A repository uses access control list, nothing but the ACLs, also known as the permission set as a security mechanism by default. Content server provide a robust accountability, compatibility via the auditing, tracing, and the electronic signature. Accountability features help identify causes of specified system behavior. Auditing can be track operations such as the check-in, check-out that can be the configured to the audit trail. Can be provide detailed runtime information useful for identifying the cause of certain behavior and troubleshooting the issues. Electronic signature can enforce the sign off of business process. A sign off is the analog to a signature on paper, and it is a way of authorizing or approving a decision electronically. Distribution services. A single repository distributed configuration. Content is distributed across all the site, all the configured repositories to access the multiple repository. In a multiple repository distribution, configuration, content, and metadata are distributed across all the participating repositories. Add-on services. Add-on services is nothing but the add-on services provide the trusted content services, like nothing but the TCS, which provide the additional security features. Then the content services for the ECM Centra, and support for the central storage for guaranteed retention and the immutability. So mm, through the content services we can add the multiple storages like the SE3, or we can put add the separate storage. If it's the Linux platform, then it's easy to add the one of the storage. Then the constant storage services enable the use of content and the migration policy, which automate the assignment of content to various storage areas. CSS is nothing but the content storage services can be used to optimizing the usage of storage infrastructure in enterprise. CSS also provide the features for the content compression and duplication. Retention policy services is nothing but the RPS. So enable the policy to manage the life cycle of the object stored into the repository. So as I told in the architecture demo, in that the retention policy. So based on the period, the document will be the removed from the system. So there is a job which run through the life cycle. The life cycle is used to check the life of that document. So if it's over the period, then it automatically remove from the system. Then the internationalization is nothing but the make the app or application for the different languages and other regional differences. By default, Documentum is in English language. So to make it internationalization, we have to install the jars for a specific country or the specific language, like for the French, Italian, Spanish. So these for these the jars will be available on OpenText site. You have to download, and then you have to place on the application side. For that, they have provided the all the installation guide. By following the steps, you will get to know how this can be happen. So the third parameter in the Documentum is the doc broker. So doc broker is nothing but the mediator, is act like the bridge to connecting the application server, application server and the content server. When we install the content server, at the time the doc broker is installed, it exposes the repository information connect using the session. So for that, the session to complete the session, there will be one dfc.property file on both application server and the content server. And based on the dfc.property file, it identify the doc broker. And once the doc broker is identified, it automatically populate the repository. Those are installed with the Documentum. And there will be server.ini file on the content server. So based on the server.ini file, uh, you will get the details of the doc broker or the repository related any information. So when the content server is up and running, it informs the doc broker about its availability, the doc base information, and ready to accept the client request. So the client application has a dfc.property file under the web inf classes, which store the doc broker host and port to connect the repository using the session. Doc broker pick up the content server. If more than one are available, then based on the indexing, it will pick up, and it will check whether the repository is available or not. So based on the selection criteria, it will pick up the correct doc broker content server through the doc broker information, and it will make the connection happen. Content server retrieve the request from the doc base via the doc broker, then create a session. So it's a three tier client server architecture. So the in first tier is the user or the client, then the second tier will be the doc broker, and third tier will be the content server. Thanks for attending the session on the ECM overview. Please share your feedback and contact us for the queries related to the course scope. Schedule references, cost, and the payments options are everything will be there on the site, and the contact number are specified in the PPT. Thanks a lot.